Zombie films are a dime a dozen these days, but occasionally one comes along and sticks its infected head above the rest as a true icon of the horror subgenre. The Sadness is the latest zombie/infected movie, and boy howdy, it's a doozy. Welcome back to ML Miller Frights. I'm ML Miller. Before we begin, please do me a favor and punch that like button down below. Share this video with all of your social media addicted pals. Click subscribe to this channel and ring that bell for notifications. The Sadness is new streaming on Shudder. It's directed and written by Rob Jabaz. The day started normally for Kat, played by Regina Lee, and Jim, played by Barant Zhu, as they go through their morning routine. Reports on the news talk about a quickly spreading virus, but like all the other virus alerts these days, they pay no mind to it. But after Jim drops off Kat to the train station, little does either of them know this would be the last normal day of their lives. The virus is highly contagious, turning its victims into twisted and perverse versions of themselves, with no morals to block out every desire and paring them down to base animals with the sole desire to eat, fuck, and kill. Sometimes not in that order. As the virus spreads all over Taiwan, Jim fights desperately to get to Kat, who is miles away and running for her life as well from these slobbering, weeping, and laughing monsters. If you're a reader of comics, you're going to see a lot of familiar things while watching The Sadness. At its core, it's just another virus-addled fast zombie movie. But comic book readers who have experienced Garth Ennis's Crossed series are going to see a lot of similarities between the infected in The Sadness and those in that indie comic book. There's so much similarity that it feels as if someone in Taiwan read Crossed and just decided to lift the idea. Just as with Crossed, The Sadness is not your typical zombie story. It tears the most basic wants and needs from the back of our reptile brains and presents it to all proudly in full, bloody, and gory color. I know a lot of people are marveling at the bold step into the abyss this film takes, but for this reviewer, who read most of the Crossed series, it really doesn't seem so revolutionary. That aside, I did love The Sadness. It sets up a very simple premise. Two lovers, separated by a great distance and many undead obstacles, fight to be back in each other's arms. It's because of this simple premise that the film is so endearing. Actors Lee and Zhu are likable, though Kat is somewhat naive and snooty, and Jim is presented as pretty dim-witted at times. They still make for a great couple to root for. This premise allows a lot of things to be thrown in between Jim and Kat, and those things are quite effective and intent on keeping them apart. I was rooting for these two to make it through this horrifying experience and was compelled when that reunification was put through so many ringers. The acts these snotting, slobbering, crying infecteds do to the uninfected is definitely going to make those with a more delicate disposition wince and want to run into the next room. This is one heinous little movie where these zombies seem to still possess all of the characteristics of their former selves, just not the moral fiber to resist the urge to hump or tear apart anything and everyone around them. Seeing the bizarre mix of facial expressions on the faces of these infected people is one of the most unsettling parts of The Sadness. With broad smiles on their faces and eyes leaking tears, these monsters are relentless and some of the most terrifying zombies put to screen. The effects are nauseatingly realistic. There's so much gore and spatter in this film. Every fluid and organ that is supposed to be inside of us is covered and smeared around these sets to the point where you can't tell what you're looking at anymore. Just some undulating bloody mess. The Sadness is a uber gore fan's winning lottery ticket. There are some fun twists along the way, and The Sadness has one of the most powerful endings I've seen since Train to Busan, another horrifying zombie movie from overseas. It feels like a comment on how thin the line between man and animal really is in a society packed together so tightly and a social climate boiled to scalding levels. The Sadness also seems to want to comment on how none of us take these types of sicknesses seriously until it's right up in your face and ready to decimate you. There's also a lot to be said about the repression of basic emotions in polite and so-called advanced society, and the encounter Kat has with a creeper on the train definitely feels like present-day social themes are being touched upon as well. You can debate the theme work of this film, as it does feel deep enough to do so. But if you're looking for the next level of zombie films, The Sadness is it. Though it was done first in Crossed, The Sadness presents the horrors in a grueling and shocking manner. There are some fun nods to Romero throughout the film, but it stands on its own as a harrowing gauntlet that will leave you exhausted by its final nihilistic moments. It's doubtful there will be a better zombie movie than this for a while. The Sadness presents a unique enough situation and type of horror that will definitely serve as the antidote for that funk you may have had from the over-inundation of zombie films in recent years.
You're doomed to live the life you're meant to be, stuck inside your reality.